All right, today's kind of obscure question to you is, how many of you have ever heard the saying, half a loaf is better than none? No? Do you understand what it means? Okay. Well, we've got 80% of a loaf. What do I mean? Here's my completed project, and there's problems with it. First of all, it doesn't have an admin area. You know, it says admin over there. We'll talk about that in a minute. The stuff that's down here, see all these albums? See that? Those should be over here, but I'm too lazy to figure out why that's the case. So I don't really care that much, to be honest with you. So I can go and grab here's the best of men at work. I can grab it. I can put it in my cart. There it's in my cart. I can go back and I can put another one in my cart. I can remove them from my cart. All right. So you can see how that's going. I got all that stuff working. The problem is, it appears as if now if you want to put an admin area in, we have to create another database and get all that stuff to work. Okay, this is what I spent doing the last couple days. I've been on here. I was out at reading this article from C# Corner, ASP.NET MVC 5 security and creating user roles, which was okay. I've been going through this one now. This is a 35-page article, so I didn't finish it. Creating user and roles administration pages for MVC 5 application. I looked at this, how to seed users and roles in an ASP.NET MVC 5 or MVC application. I was out on Stack Overflow, so I found some stuff, all right, but it's not at all where I wanted it to be. So, long story short, I'm skipping part 7 for now at least. I'm going to go back and read those. If I can implement that, I will. I will tell you, I'm not going to sit there for 8 hours and try to get a database to work so I can put in an admin user. I'm just not going to do it. All right. And since we didn't do part 7, or I'm not doing part 7, then part 9, which is the registration and checkout, becomes moot also because it needs part 7. So what I'm doing is I'm jumping right into part 8. I emailed you all today. You've got another folder, a folder with today's date on it. That folder has virtually all of the code we have to add for part 8 and virtually all of the code we have to add for part 10. So we're going to go over both of those parts. All right. I will tell you, and again, on this, I am not sure if you can change what I'm about to show you or what, but again, if we go over to Team Explorer here and we go over to changes, for example, you've seen this before. If I go over to here, and this is what I'm trying to show you. I'm not trying to get another job right now, all right? But I think at least you are. If you used the copy that Ethan was good enough to provide, you've got his name on there. And I don't know if you can go in and change that. In an ideal world, you'll have just your name on there. All right? But I don't know if you can go in and you can actually change that on the copy you've got or not. I don't know. All right? Because I think it equates it with, like it says there, whoever the author was. All right? And you might be able to go in and change it. I've never checked. Not to be funny, not to be whatever. I don't have the desire to do that. But what I'm saying is, for those of you who may have copied his, and if you're ever worried about somebody else looking through your portfolio, and I don't even know if they can get to this, but if they can, seeing his name on it, then you might want to, see if you can change it or make, do whatever. All right. So I want to grab the copy that I was working with. I think that's this one. I can tell you in just a second. That's it. All right. So the copy that I have right here is what we had yesterday when we finished with part 6. Okay, again, for now at least, I'm skipping part 7 and I'm jumping right into part 8 of this. Part 8, I believe me, I'm just surprised I got this much to work as I got to work today. All right. Part 8 is shopping cart with Ajax updates. This particular document is 24 pages long. I wish it was double that because they put in all the code, but they do very little as far as explaining what the code is and what it does. All right. And if you said, well, why did they do this? That's almost impossible for me to answer. Because I'm not sure exactly. There's different ways that you can write things. This is the way that they chose to write it. So in this part, as it says, they actually create the shopping cart. So when you get done with this one, you will have a working shopping cart. There are problems in their code. I will show you when we get there. You'll see them because I've fixed the stuff, and what you've got, all right, what you've got, the stuff is fixed. All right, it says here, will allow users to place albums in their cart without registering. In other words, they're a guest or they're an anonymous user. Does that make sense? All right. Really, when you think about it, if I go and get onto one of these machines here, and I go to Amazon, okay, and I go in there, I'm probably going to be an anonymous user until I actually go in and go through the checkout process and let them know who I am. All right, so that's not really anything new here. You'll notice that the shopping cart and checkout process are going to be separated into two new controllers. We will have a shopping cart controller. As it says, it allows you to anonymously add items to a cart, and a checkout controller, which will handle the checkout process. Again, much of the stuff in here, we can look at it and I can talk about it, but in general terms. But like I said, if you said, why'd they do it this way, I'm not going to be able to tell you or answer questions like that. So the first thing that we want to do, and again, you've got your choice. You've got all these, or you can just type them in yourselves. It's really up to you. But we're going to go in and first go and right-click on the models folder, and we're going to add 3 classes. All right, so right-click on models. You can see what I have in here right now. But the first thing I want to do is right-click on models, choose add, choose class, and the first one is cart. All right, so I want cart.cs. You can see real quick what happened when you did that or when I did that. This is going to be, basically, this will be our shopping cart. All right, and if I come back over to here, I am finding that it's much better if I throw this stuff, just take it all, and throw it all into Notepad++ before I try to just copy it over there directly, because weird things have been happening when I don't do that. All right. So this is it. Again, you've got your choice. You have this. I gave you this particular one. Don't worry about the error for key. We'll fix that in a minute. I purposely put it up like that so you can see what that error will be. All right. You'll notice that key is underlined. It's because there's a file that's missing in here in our using area. If you look up on the screen here. So if I put my mouse down here, it says we want to add this using component data annotations and data annotations key. Boom. All right. It's funny because before today, before this morning, all these files, when I was putting them in, they would always go on the bottom. And I really kind of liked that. When I added a new file, it went down to the bottom. Now they're all going on the top. That one went in the middle. I don't know why. All right. But we need this using system.componentModel.data annotations. And then this is the entire thing right here. Well, there. That's literally everything. Okay? So again, you can either copy it over or you can add that. So I'll give you a minute to do that. Again, if you're not a fleet typist, I'd recommend copying it in. Now, as you look through this, if you look up on the screen here, the name of the class is cart. That's pretty obvious taking a look at it. By default, unless told otherwise, ASP.NET assumes that the primary key for this class that you're going to set up here is either named ID or it's named cart ID. Everybody hear that? That's what it's assuming. The one we want to use for the equivalent of primary key isn't either one of those. It's record ID. And since we want to use record ID as what the equivalent is of our primary key, we have to let the system know that the primary key is connected to that field. Does that make sense to people? We're kind of overriding what would normally be done. Normally, the first field you'd have in there would be cart ID. Also, normally when you create these, your primary key normally is going to be an int. All right, so we're just kind of, for lack of better words, whatever you want to call it, circumventing the way it usually works, whatever you want to call it. And that is explained in here, okay, in the handout. All right, so that's the first one. Has everybody gotten a chance to put that in? All right. Then, if you would please, again, right-click on Models. Again, choose Add. Again, choose Class. And this is our second class. The name of this class will be Order.cs. All right? This has got a couple more fields in it. Sorry. So again, you can either copy, if you'd rather do that. All right, or you can just put them in whatever way is easiest for you to put them in. All right. Now, don't worry. There is an error in here right now. Everybody hear what I just said? There literally is an error in here right now on this line where it says order detail, because that's the next class we're going to write. All right. So there's an error because we're referencing something that does not yet exist. That should be the only error that we get in here, all right? But I'll leave that up for a minute so that you can put that in again or copy it, however it's easier for you to do it. Now, as you'd probably guess, a class that's called order is going to be used to track orders. All right? Hopefully that just makes sense. So it'll have summary information and delivery information. All right? So far we have added cart and we added order, and we're going to add one more. So if you could please, and I would really recommend that you use the same, the next one we're going to create is called order detail. I'd really recommend you don't call it order details, that you call it order detail. So I'm going to create one more here. Again, I'm going to right mouse click on models. Again, I'm going to choose add. Again, I'm going to choose class. And this one will be order detail.cs. And that last class that's in here will be the detailed information regarding the order. All right, the other stuff is more summary or summarily, whatever it's called, in nature. This one is more I don't know, the other one's more simple. This is more complex, however you want to say it. We're not going to build yet because we still have problems if we tried to build. We're going to make another change in just a minute. All right, hopefully you're finishing that up. If you look up on the screen here, what you'll notice is what's in blue, that's so far what we've added. So again, you either added it or you copied it. I could really care less, just as long as you've got it in there. The next thing that we want to do is we want to update the music store entities that's right here. All right. And we're just going to add a couple lines to it. So bring this up. Close that there, and I want to open up the right one. All right, so I want you in your models folder to open up the existing file called modelstoreentities.cs. And we want that to look like this. What we're doing is we're adding these three lines. So if you look on the screen there, the ones that are in blue, and what are those? They equate to the three classes that we've just added. Again, if you copy that file over otherwise, if you copy over the music store entities.cs file, you've got everything. Any questions on what we've done so far? So we've added three classes, and then we updated our entities file to reflect the fact that we're using those three classes. And again, the cart class is going to hold our shopping cart. The orders class, and notice, this is what I mean. See how that's carts, cart, order, orders, etc.? That's typically the way you do it. What you name the class is typically singular. What you name what's going to be working with a class is typically plural, meaning there's an S on the end. Now, can you break that rule? You can break any rule you want to break. All right, but that's typically not the way you should do it. All right, I'm just going to go on then. And this is page 5 of this handout, page 5 of 24. And I don't want to read to you, all right? But the author is saying the next thing we want to do is to create the shopping cart class. We'll do that in a minute. This isn't one you're going to want to type in. There are probably, I'm just guessing here, 180? Okay, 180 lines, okay? So I've already got that file for you in here, in the stuff I sent to you. All right, so you have a thing called shoppingcart.cs. You have that. My suggestion is that you create the new one and then just copy this in over it. All right? All right, but before we do that, let's talk about what's in there. All right. Now, the first thing that the author says is it's going to handle the data access to the cart table. In addition, It'll handle the business logic. Business logic is sometimes also referred to as business rules. We've talked about this a little bit in other classes, but basically it's the rules that make the business go. All right. As an example, I don't know if I showed you this or not, but I've gone out to, what is it? It's Coursera.com or something like that. All right. And they have, if you've never been out here, if you ever get some time, just go out there. It's literally Coursera, or I call it Coursera. I think that's what it is. And what it is it's all online courses from all over the world, not all over the United States. All right. I started taking a class. I had problems with it. It was an Android class because the people who were teaching it were French. English was definitely their second language, and it was hard to understand. All right. So the point is, yeah, join for free, etc. And you could take, these are just some of the schools. But what I'm trying to get to is if, for example, if I take this class, Python for Everybody, I can take it in two different ways. If I want a certificate where the people, where my stuff that I turn in will actually be graded and I'll get comments and stuff on, it's usually $49 or it's $69. If I don't care, if I'm just taking it for the knowledge, it's free, but then I'm auditing it. All right. When I used to work at Blackhawk, this was many years ago there was, for lack of better words, they had kind of a hiccup in some of their business rules. And the reason, what I'm telling you is, what they did was they let people come in and audit classes almost for free. Okay? And at the time when you took a class, it was maybe the class was $500, let's say. But the audit was free. So they typically had two types of people auditing their classes. Either elderly people who just didn't have the money to pay for it but were interested in getting some knowledge, or people who said, you know what, I'm 18 years old, I'm going to audit most of the courses in this program, then come back and take them. All right? Well, then they realized they were losing a lot of money because every time they brought somebody in with an audit, that was conceivably, that was taking away a regular fully paying customer. Does that make sense? So they changed their business rule in a hurry. And they said that at Blackhawk, you paid the same price whether you audited the class or you took it for credit. And what happened when they did that? Nobody audited anymore because there was absolutely no reason to. But what I'm getting to is those were their business rules. And their business rules had to change over time to keep up with the way things were happening. All right? So when we look in here, here are our methods, okay? And the author says, just so you are aware of this, because this has been way back since chapter 8 of the book we used in here. The author says we don't want to require users to sign up for an account if they just want to add items to their shopping cart, if that's all they want to do. So as mentioned there, we use a temporary identifier that's called a global unique identifier, sometimes called a GUID or a GUID, etc. It goes by different names depending on who's saying it. All right, and it's a session variable. Hopefully you remember that back from about chapter 8 or so in the book. And the author says we could have put this into, literally we could have taken that and put it into ViewBank. But they're trying to show you that there's other ways that you can do this as well. All right, so here's the methods that we have in the shopping cart. We're going to copy this over in just a minute. Brady said it's 180 or so lines. Let's say approximately 200 lines. So these are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 methods that make up these approximately 200 lines. All right. Some of them should just make sense when you look at them. Add to cart. Well, that's going to take whatever album that you want and it's going to add it to your cart. Okay, that should make sense. And notice it's got a check in here and it has to see, is this the first time you're ordering this record? Or have you already ordered a copy and are you adding another one? Okay? They had a thing over the weekend. I'm realizing my wife says that I spend way, way, way too much time on udemy.com. All right. And she gets mad because every month there's $30 or $40 worth of charges from Udemy. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Well, and my response to her was, you spend way, way, way too much time on hsm.com and qvc.com. To be fair to her, though, over the weekend they had an Amazon Fire 10.5-inch tablet with a case and a bunch of other stuff that typically goes for over $250, and it was $119. Not a bad deal. So she said, I got this iPad, but it's old, and it is. Her iPad's 5 years old. She said, would you mind if I got one of these? I said, no, not at all. And she goes, good, because I already ordered it. But that's a true story, all right? But that was fine. And then she calls me back about 10 minutes later, and she said, you know, your mother, my mom is about 87 years old, and she's got all of her faculties, and she still gets on the computer, etc., occasionally, but she gets frustrated. My sister tried to show her Facebook, and she gave up. So my sister came over again a month later and tried to show her Facebook, and she gave up. All right. Well, now with this new thing, with this Amazon Fire, it's one of those where you can talk to it. Say, bring up Facebook. I think she can do that. All right. But now in the cart for QVC, I think it was, now instead of having one Amazon Fire in there for the Scott household, there were two. All right. So that's what they're saying with the add to cart. What's the opposite? Remove from cart. Okay, you can either remove things one at a time, or you can empty the cart and remove everything. This is very similar when you think about it. When I did the lecture on this morning for the out of class ones that I'm doing, and I just went into Amazon and I put 2 books in a cart, and then I took one out, and then I took the other one out. All right, that kind of thing. Then we've got to get cart items. It retrieves a list of what's in there. Why? To either display them on screen for the user, or to process them and let the user know how much money they owe for what they put in their cart. All right? Get count. It's got a total number of what we have in the shopping cart. That one might seem a little bit confusing when you first look at it, but if you look at get count, and you think about this logically, we may have even talked about this before in this class or another class, I don't remember. But if I don't have anything in my shopping cart, and I've got a button there that says empty cart, I should either get a message back or nothing should happen, correct? There's nothing to remove from my cart because there's nothing there. All right? Well, how can I find out that for sure? I can do a count, and if the count is 0, I know the cart's already empty. All right. Get total, which will total the cost of all the items in the cart. That should make sense to you. That if you start thinking, well, we're probably going to loop through it, and we'll have some kind of a variable called total, and then for each album that we have in the cart, we'll take that album's cost and add it to total. That sounds very logical to me. All right. Create order, which, as it says, it converts the shopping cart to an order during the checkout phase. All right. So we're technically, unless we can figure out how to do this thing with the admin, we're not going to be able to really check out. You'll be able to do everything but check out. Now, just so you know, I actually think that in a way what we have is better. And what I mean is, the way that they've got it implemented, they want you to put in that code that says free, and then when you check out, it doesn't cost you anything anyway. So I think their whole checkout is kind of stupid to begin with. All right. And then finally, we've got get cart. Okay. And I want to mention something to you, because this is the kind of thing that it's not impossible. You could be asked something like this at a job interview. Okay. We've done stuff like this before, right? Math.pow. If you remember back in the day when we were doing and you're going to do it again next semester, but when we did the BMI stuff, we had that formula, and part of that said math.pow height 2. Okay? And what that means is height times height. In other words, this says height squared. That make sense? All right. So why am I even telling you this? Because you can go and you can call something from the math class without having to create a math object. All right? This is what's called, this thing, math.pow, is what's called a static method. And a static method means that you don't have to create a class to use that class's methods. You don't have to create a math class because it's already been created for you. And it'll be the same way in Java next semester. But the reason I'm telling you that is, notice it says here, getCart is a static method, all right, which allows our controllers to obtain a cart object. It uses the getCartID method to handle reading the cart ID from the user session. Okay, and it requires some other stuff that literally has been put in there for us. So here is the complete shopping cart class. All right, as Ethan recommended the other day, you might be better off, well, I don't know if you can actually do that like this, but let's see. If I go over here, so what we want to do is we want to create this shopping cart class. And I don't know any reason why, let's see, model, add, existing item. I think that we can come right over, so you can come right over, you know, I can go to the desktop here, and 12.6, lesson 8, find shoppingcart.cs, and there it is. Now, I don't think that you could do it any faster, and you were very close. I got 182 lines, but that's about as close as you can get. All right? But if you would please bring in that class right now. If I did it too fast, right mouse click on models, choose add, choose existing item, go over to wherever you saved the email I gave you today, go into the Chapter 8 folder, find shoppingcart.cs, and click add. Is there anyone who had any problem doing that? All right, so hopefully you've got that. This is one thing, you know, you say, well, are you going to explain all these? Well, that's kind of what the author just did on the previous page. All right, so you'll have to take a look at it. I mean, with some of it too, some of it's really hard to read unless you really break it down. You know, what I ended up doing was, you know, and I didn't do this on yours, but I'm like, at a minimum, I like to have at least a blank line between each method so I can look and see where one method ends, the next method starts, etc. So now we have that. All right. The next thing that we are told to do in here, this is going to get us all the way down to right there. All right, is they talk about using view models. So what is a view model? Well, I went out to Wikipedia. What we're using in here right now is what's called a software design pattern. In particular, we're using the model view controller software design pattern. It's not new. It's at least 20 years old. All right, it's been used by a lot of different types of software over the years. Okay. Another one that you can use instead of model view controller is model view view model. So if you look up on the screen, you'll notice that that's MVVM. It still is separating, all right, like we talked about before, okay? But now we've got model, we've got view. They pretty much are doing the same thing they did before. The view model is acting more or less like the controller that we had in MVC. All right. So the bottom line is what the author says in here is, hey, we made the decision because there's a lot of complex stuff that's going on in here, passing objects back and forth, having to refer to entire objects, etc. So what they decided to do was not use a view bag because that would have been real hard to manage with all of that data going back and forth. So they instead decided to use this view model pattern. Again, I don't want to read it to you. But we're about to create these two view models for use in our shopping cart controller. Now, how are we going to do that? If you'd look up on the screen here, please. What I want you to do, not in models. I don't have anything open right now. All right, there's nothing open. I want you to right mouse click on the name of your project, not your solution, but your project. If you've named it like I have, you're going to right mouse click here where it says MVC Music Store. Right mouse click there, go to add, and go to folder. Where are we? Add. New folder. Not add ASP.NET folder. Right mouse click on the project name, choose add, and choose new folder. All right? That's going to put a new folder right there. At least it did on mine. And we want to call this new folder, make sure I think it's singular, View Models. It's plural. All right, so we want to change the name of that folder that we just added from new folder or new folder 1 to View Models. All right, and it's going to have a capital V and a capital M. All right, we're going to put two view models inside of this. A shopping cart view model to hold the contents of the shopping cart, and a shopping cart remove view model to display confirmation information when we remove something from the shopping cart. All right? So hopefully you were able to do that. So the first one that we want to put in, after you've got this in here, all right, is I'm going to go and I'm going to right mouse click on it, choose add, and I'm going to choose class. And this one is going to be called shopping cart view model.cs. Again, if you don't want to do that, you can always copy it in from the code that I've given you. This is only going to have, after we create it, 2 lines in it that we have to put in. All right, so shopping cart view model.cs. Create it, make sure it's under your view models folder. And here are the 2 lines. So let me give them to you. Whoops. There they are. So that's what you have to put in. Now, notice that mine looked funky because I got that, wow, it didn't like this. It says that this could not be found. So I'm going to take my mouse and put it over here. And it says you need to use using MVC Music Store.viewModels. Everybody see that? All right. So I'm going to go and put that in. That added this line. It's at the top that I'm going to move down. So you have to add this line 5 that I've got right here in blue and these 2 lines in lines 11 and 12. All right, you have to add those 2 lines. I'll give you a minute to do that. Again, you don't have to type in anything if you don't want to, because if you look at what I gave you, you've got it right here. There's shopping cart viewmodel.cs. So you can grab the whole thing. Oh, we're going to add to it later. Yeah. Okay. You're right. It's in there. No. It's in there. There you go. Shopping cart view model. So it's right there. And the other one that we're about to add, okay, The other one that we're about to add, which is the remove view model, is in there also. That's this one. All right. So I'm taking for granted that everyone was able to do that. So we are again going to right mouse click on this view models folder. We're again going to choose add. We're again going to choose class. And this one is going to be called shopping cart remove view model.cs. All right. And the code that we have to put in for that one is right here. The first thing that you should be getting used to doing is when you put in code like this is to look over on the side here and see if there's anything red. All right, because over here, if there's anything red, that's going to show you your errors. The reason I'm telling you that is that's the same way next semester when we're doing it in Java, that's the same way Eclipse does it. All right? So you'll see the same kind of thing where you can always take your mouse and put it over there. And if that happens and you find the line that's in error, like we just looked at with this one, the first thing you do is you look when you get an error and you put your mouse on the thing that's got the red squigglies and you see if it gives you anything. All right? So you see, wow, am I missing something? Am I missing a using statement or whatever? That'll be the exact same way that we do it next semester in Java, except in Java, instead of saying using, they use the word import. But the ideas are virtually the same. You're bringing in system information so that you're able to use it in your program. All right? Now, this probably is a good time to, at a minimum, to come in here and click your Save All double disk icon there. All right? Let's add the shopping cart controller right now. And after we add the shopping cart controller, we'll talk about it a little bit, then we'll take a break. All right? Since it's a controller that we're adding, as you know, we want to come over to controllers here, right mouse click on our controllers folder, choose add, and choose controller. Right mouse click on your controllers folder, choose add, and choose controller. The name of this, first of all, it's going to be empty. So you want to choose empty. We want an empty controller. All right? So we want to choose empty and add, and we want this to be called shopping cart controller. All right? So shopping cart controller, and click add. All right? Now, again, there is a boatload of code for this. Probably about half of what was in the other one. Okay? So what I'm going to do is where I've got this, you don't have to do it this way, but this is the way I'm going to do it. You see where it says public class shopping cart controller. I'm going to take everything in between those curlies and remove them. So it looks just like this. All right? Then I'm going to come over to what I mailed you before, and there's shopping cart controller.cs. I'm going to open it up in here. All right? I'm going to go down into here, and I'm literally just going to copy everything. Copy it to the clipboard, come back in here, and paste it in. All right? Now you'll notice I've got some stuff here where it's giving me some underlines. So notice music store entities. On mine at least, I'm getting an error. So I'm putting my mouse there, and it says I need to add a using statement with MVC music store.models. I did that. Okay? It still has a little bit of stuff it doesn't like, but it's got much better. So I had to add this line myself right there, using MVC music store.models. So what's left? Well, it doesn't like something in here in shopping cart. So it says I need to use I need to also add using MVC music store.view models. All right. So I've got both of these in there now, and now, at least as far as I can tell, there are no errors here. And again, if you did not want to do that, you could have just come in and when this thing first came up like this, you could have done a Control A and removed every bleeping thing that's in there if you wanted to do it that way. And then you'd come in and in the file that I had you copy over, all right, you just would highlight all of it, Control A, Control C to copy. Then you'd come into here and you'd paste the whole thing in at once. And you notice, again, no errors. I did try to test all this stuff first to make sure it would work. All right. Now, they mention here on the handout, I'm on page 15 of 24 here. The shopping cart controller has three main purposes. We want to be able to add an item to the shopping cart, remove an item from the shopping cart, and view items that are in a shopping cart. That pretty much should sound like a kind of CRUD type of operations to you. All right? So it says this will make use of the three classes that we have just created. Those being the shopping cart class, the shopping cart view model class, and the shopping cart remove view model class. All right? So we came in, we added an empty controller, all right? And we just put the code in. Now, when you look at it, again, this is where I think that this handout falls, and this is my opinion, falls a little bit short. They did put in some comments, all right, which is better than no comments. Like set up our view model, return the view. Some of the comments, though, that they put in are just things you already know anyway. I wish they had done a better job of explaining everything that's going on in here. All right. But what are we doing? Well, you'll notice if you look in here, here's our index. All right, so we know that's our default thing to have happen, right? So when we go there, that's what we want to have. And it says we want to set up the view model and return it. Well, how are we setting up the view model? All right, we're calling get cart items and we're calling get total. So that should get all of the stuff that we have in our shopping cart and it should total it up for us. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. Then we've got an add to cart, which in an ideal world at least, okay, it'll make sense. What are we doing? We're adding an item to our shopping cart. We've got remove from cart, which again, in an ideal world is removing an item from our shopping cart, whatever item we've just highlighted. All right? And you may or may not have noticed, but when we do that, we're actually, this is the first time I've used this, we're returning JSON, JavaScript object notation. So we're trying to put it into a format where it'll come out and it'll look, for lack of better words, almost pre-formatted for us. All right. And then we've got the cart summary. Now, look at this, because right now this wouldn't work if we tried to run it. And if it would work, it wouldn't be complete because we didn't create this yet. We're going to create this later, this partial view called cart summary. What's the big difference between a view and a partial view? The views we've had, if you remember, we usually have an @ sign at the top and we made them strong views. When you create a partial view, it comes up, there's nothing in it at all. It's an empty file. It's designed to work with one or more other views. It's a partial view. It's not doing all the work itself. It's designed to work with other things to get the work done, for lack of better words. All right? Okay, it's 1:30. Let's take a break. Let's come back at 1:45. We're going to pick it up on page 15 of this handout where it says Ajax updates with jQuery. So we're right here.